You know that moment, that feeling that just quietly creeps in, usually when we're totally alone, bathed in the faint blue glow of a screen, or maybe standing awkwardly on the edge of a crowded room. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're really looking into the shadows of our own minds to understand our most primal human anxiety. We're diving into the psychology and the deep existential fear of rejection. Think about it. You send a message, something a bit vulnerable, something honest, and then you just wait. You watch the screen. Or maybe you walk into a room and immediately read the faces looking back at you. In that tiny, agonizing gap of time before the response comes, something ancient literally activates inside you. It's this quiet dread, a held breath. And this isn't just everyday nervousness. This is something much older, and honestly, something much closer to raw survival. In fact, most of humanity spends its entire life running from this exact feeling. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the biological root and why we simply cannot look away. So to really grasp why rejection hurts quite as much as it does, we have to travel back in time. For basically all of human history, rejection wasn't just an emotional experience, it was lethal. I mean, to be cast out of the prehistoric tribe meant absolutely no shelter, no food, and zero protection from whatever was lurking out there in the dark. The human who was rejected was, quite literally, the human who died alone. Now contrast that ancient physical danger with our modern threats, social exclusion, or just being left on read. As you can see here, it beautifully illustrates the crazy truth. Your nervous system, even today, still cannot distinguish between being cast out of a prehistoric tribe and being ignored on your phone. And modern neuroscience completely backs this up. The brain doesn't just see exclusion as some minor emotional discomfort. When a person is dismissed or unwanted, the brain activates the exact same neural pain regions as it does for a physical wound. It's fascinating, right? It literally registers a missed connection as a literal physical blow. Let's move to the next layer and see how this builds. Section 2, the philosophical wound and the fear of meaninglessness. So, right beneath our biology is this uniquely human fear. The philosopher Hegel wrote something profoundly unsettling. He said, human self-consciousness requires recognition from another. We do not fully experience ourselves as real until we are seen. Just sit with that for a second. We are the only species that doesn't just fear death. We are fundamentally terrified of meaninglessness. When someone rejects us, it doesn't just stay on the surface. It travels deep inward, finding that dark part of us that, frankly, was never entirely sure of its own worth to begin with. This is exactly why a rejection from just one person, a single fleeting consciousness, can feel like a heavy, final verdict from the entire world. So the crucial point is that rejection is way more than just a social failure. It's an existential erasure. Beneath all our polished, modern rationality, a primal part of our mind treats every single social judgment as a literal referendum on our actual existence. Which brings us to Section 3, the masks we build and our desperate defenses against the void. Now, what's really interesting about this is how we construct armor to avoid being erased. Because that erasure is so terrifying, we build these masks. And they look completely different on the outside, even though that prehistoric fear underneath is identical for all of us. Some build walls, leaving first just to avoid the strike. Some rely on performance. They don't really live, they audition. They constantly reshape their personality, treating every silence like a sentence. Others turn to control, trying to basically orchestrate every single variable so rejection can never surprise them. And then some just go numb, presenting their indifference as freedom, which, if we're being honest, is really just a wound dressed up as a philosophy. And this takes us to Section 4, the modern amplification, the era of industrialized rejection. The entire landscape of how we wear these masks has completely changed. In the ancient world, rejection happened in person, right? It was witnessed by the tribe. But now, it happens at 2 a.m. in the cold blue light of a screen, a message left on read, an algorithm that quietly decides your voice just shouldn't be heard today. It is entirely silent, isolating you in empty rooms and the rain-soaked streets of your own mind, completely amplifying our modern loneliness at a massive scale. We're all living within this attention economy. But the true tragedy of the algorithm isn't just that it harvests our time. It's that it literally monetizes our deepest, most desperate, prehistoric fears. Think about it. Every single metric we obsess over, views, likes, followers, replies, they've all become digital proxies for tribal belonging. The technology is brand new, but the wound it's exploiting, that is ancient. And this brilliantly illustrates our final segment, Section 5, Confronting the Self, and the deeper question. The ultimate source of this fear isn't actually about other people at all. The fear of rejection is, at its very core, the fear of confronting your own emptiness without someone else there to fill it. Because if you build your entire identity on the reflections that others offer you, you are guaranteeing yourself permanent vulnerability. External approval can always be withdrawn.
Am I wanted? Do I belong? Do I matter? Every unanswered text, every silent room we walk into echoes with this primal tribal doubt. I want to ask you directly, how often is this unseen, quiet question driving the choices you make every single day?
Now, if you feel this heavy dread, you need to understand something incredibly important right now. You are not weak. You are ancient. This anxiety is not some personal character flaw. It is the profound, echoing survival instinct of your ancestors, the ones who absolutely needed the warmth of the tribe just to stay alive in the dark. So, how do we find steadiness? Well, first, we have to actually see the fear clearly in the light. When we trace it back to its prehistoric roots, we take away its mystical, devastating grip. It allows us to slowly stop building all those walls, to stop the endless auditioning and performing for everyone else. And finally, it gives us the grounding we need to risk being seen exactly as we are, and to realize that the world actually does not end when our true, unguarded self is exposed.
Because the deepest form of human power is not the absence of fear. That's just a myth. True power is looking at that quiet dread head on. So I'll leave you with this final thought to carry with you. Can you risk being completely vulnerable and discover that you will survive it